Hi, this is Graphically Alex coming at you with all things fat related. If that's something that interests you, please subscribe. I'd love to have you. And we have another bloater here. So we're on the hunt. We need to talk about this. She is a PhD candidate of sociology. So she is going into these higher up positions, blah, blah, blah. And she is basically speaking out against GLP-1s. So it's important to understand she is a bloater. She is leading the charge along with the other bloaters right now. They're trying to turn the zombie E followed by the letter D world, the zombie horde, against GLP-1s. So I'm just documenting it. I have told you guys I'm documenting it. I do think that my personal opinion is that they are probably going to do what they did to Fen to GLP-1. So it's not necessarily let me try to talk about it a little bit. It's not 100% banned. When I say banned, I mean basically what happened to Fen. So it was taken off the market. Certain types of it were taken off the market. It was heavily demonized and basically put into the dustbin of history. And you could still technically get, I don't even know if I want to say it because frickin' YouTube, but you can still get one of them. I think the other one went off. So it might happen more so to like a combination, it might be something kind of similar to that. So I don't know about like the details of it, but as far as the PR campaign and probably the actual availability of the medication, it being highly regulated, it has a possibility of being taken off insurance, especially for the purposes of obesity. So it is not in a strong position, is all I'm trying to say, especially as they continue to do this. I do have to speak kind of more so. Sometimes as an activist, you have to get somebody's attention. So you have to talk more black and white. So when I say banned, I mean it in that sense to get you to listen because they're coming after these drugs. I'm telling you. I'm going to keep telling you over and over and over again. And again, she's going into, I would assume, somewhat of a position of power. I'm pretty sure she could get a job with a PhD in sociology, at least in a university or an academic setting. She's going to be teaching, right? All that kind of stuff. So it's important to understand that she's going to have influence in the future. And she is against GLP-1, one of many. That's why I call it the zombie horde. However, remember, the bloaters, they are the highest level of zombie. They are the furthest along within the TR zombie. By TR, I mean E followed by the letter D. Sorry, I know it's a lot to keep up with, but we are heavily censored on YouTube, as maybe you do or don't know. I don't know, but I have to talk. We got to kind of talk weird. So anyways, as far as somebody who's in E followed by the letter D, this is the most severe. This is somebody who makes their entire life about pushing it and promoting it onto everybody possible. And they want to change society to basically reinforce issues as a part of their greater goal to normalize obesity, which they have already done. So that's basically what's going on. That's what has happened. We are fighting it on this channel. We are fighting against the normalization of obesity, and we have to know what's going on. They're going after GLP-1s. Okay? I hope that was clear. I know it's a lot. It's a lot to handle. I know. It's a lot. Trust me, I know.
Name's Amanda.
Oh, I can't just play the whole thing because she goes on forever. So we're going to just go through video. Okay? And I'm going to just comment as she goes because, yeah, there's like 4 of them. So it would take forever if we watched the whole thing.
I'm a PhD candidate in sociology and I study medical fat phobia.
Okay.
So last week at some point, the website The Cut posted an article about someone who ended a friendship over their friend's GLP-1 use. And I'm actually not going to talk about that article. If you want to read it, you're more than welcome to. But some of the things that I discussed with people on Thread specifically when talking about this was that, I saw someone, that friend specifically,
Had a history with you know what?
was in GLP-1 use was
So saw that their friends' GLP-1 use was incredibly triggering for them. See? So what does that mean? It means that if somebody uses GLP-1, it's an affront to a person with these issues, which she's encouraging that by bringing up this article and talking about it. Now, I don't think she has like a ton of followers or whatever, but you have to remember she is going to be a doctor. She's going to be a PhD person, somebody who has a PhD. So when you look at that, she's promoting that. What do you think she's going to do when she gets her PhD? Is she going to promote this stuff? Yeah. So she's going to promote the idea that one person using GLP-1 is triggering or is understandably triggering to somebody else who has had a TR issue.
incredibly triggering for them. Um, I don't have grand thoughts about that article. As I said, I'm not really going to discuss that. But one of the things that I had posted was, I made a response to Roxanne Gay where I said, I understand it given their own ED history. It can be hard to be around people who are engaging in diet culture. And the response that I got from that is not surprising because what I've started to see when I'm interacting with people on Threads, if I say anything um, that in any way challenges or is disruptive or gets us to kind of think about GLP-1 use in a way that acknowledges the harm that can caused
Demonizes the medication. Let me translate for her.
by having it so ingrained in our society, people tend to pop up who are, very pro GLP-1s. And the person who responded to this, I ended up looking at their Threads account, and they're actively involved in the Zepbound Reddit community, which is wild that there's an entire community for one GLP-1 drug. But regardless, what they told me was starting a GLP-1 actually frees many of us from diet culture.
So you can see the way she talks about it. She really doesn't like them. She doesn't. So I think you need to understand the amount of bias. And also remember, zombies communicate through emotion. So she's coming at this from, I am seated upon high. This is how she's talking, okay? I am the bloater on top of the hill, and you will all listen to me, you lower zombies. So that's basically how she's communicating. And her expression, it is wild that they would have that. You see? That's an emotional reinforcement that that's a bad thing, or that people talking about it or whatever is crazy or stupid or whatever, even though she's literally studying medical fat phobia and her whole life is about E followed by the letter D. Her whole life is about her issue. She's literally basing her entire life around being fat. But somehow there being a Reddit thread about Zepbound is just a bridge too far. It's just a bridge too far.
Not treating obesity will keep you locked into diet culture. And one, what a wild take. But two, I think that this type of comment really reminds me that we do not have a good understanding of what diet culture is.
So she gets to define what it is. I describe it as something different. On my channel, I talk about diet culture as basically it has to do with typically a vanity downsizing journey. And it has to do with certain food choices that have to do with lower calories, higher protein, things like that. Typically what you would expect in somebody who's already of a normalized weight, who's trying to tighten up, but also build muscle at the same time. So basically like toning, things like that. So you think of things like light popcorn, cottage cheese that's fat-free, the tiramisu with the rice cake dipped into the coffee, right? This kind of stuff. To me, that's diet culture. She views diet culture, a lot of them, they try to view diet culture as like a political thing. They also view diet culture as synonymous with the reductive E followed by letter D. So, people talking to Anna. They conflate it, which no. Again, diet culture is something that anybody of all size can have a light popcorn, you know? However, when you're in a vanity journey, because you're already of a normalized weight, then you have to engage with it. So they don't like that. They don't like that at all. They don't like anything that acknowledges or shows that pesky caloric realism. They don't like that. So they try to demonize it constantly. Similarly, like they're going to probably make changes or make waves within GLP-1s, because I can barely talk about cows on my channel. They just can't really outright ban that, but they've demonized the hell out of it and made it synonymous with talking to Anna, haven't they?
How it relates to or is, part of thin culture. And
And who defines thin culture? Who defines fat culture? Who gets to define that?
also how, all of the things that we're seeing in the resurgence of GLP-1s, the obsession over thinness, all of that, and how we talk about it now in this current landscape.
So the obsession of thinness, that happens within the E followed by letter D world, period. I would argue that her entire life is obsessed with thinness because she's obsessed with fatness. And fatness has to be in opposition to thinness, right? So she's very obsessed with it. But it's okay when she does it. That's where we get into the bloater. Like, it's okay when I do it. I get to say what's the truth or not. I get to determine everything. That's the bloater attitude. I call it bloater entitlement. So I get to do and say whatever I want, but you have to listen to me. That's basically how they act. So be aware of that. I only categorize them because I want you guys to understand different types so that we can collectively learn to fight them better.
Is very different from where we were even in the early 2000s, when we had, again, a real resurgence of thin bodies being the dominant.
So who gets to determine that? Because the 2000s compared to what? The 90s? The 90s was pretty thin body. The 80s, that was pretty thin body focused. The 70s, what is the decade that was so obsessed with being huge prior to now? You see how weird that is? But they just say things like that and they expect you to be like, yeah, yeah, because she's getting a PhD in fat BS. That's what I'm going to call it. A PhD in fat BS. That's what she's getting. So we're supposed to just listen to her. No.
Dominant norm and ideal within celebrity culture and within.
Thinness is the dominant norm, period. That is, a normalized weight is what human beings typically are and should be. This is a weird time where we have the clownish TR world has taken over. The zombies took over. And so they've achieved the normalization of obesity. This has never occurred at any other time or place, to be honest. I mean, it's still not, they're trying to get it everywhere. But if you look at the United States, they've done it. They've succeeded here. They're succeeding in Mexico. I don't know if they've succeeded in Canada, but they're close to it. Probably the closest. They're really trying in the UK. I brought that up. I don't think it's going to happen, but they'll try everywhere and anywhere. That's just a fact, especially with the rise of the internet and social media, globalization, blah, 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 cosmopolitanism, right? So, like, the idea that, like, I'm a cosmopolitan girly because I'm on TikTok and da-da-da, and that will spread to other cultures and other places. I even heard when you guys commented about India, there's quite a fat acceptance presence in India. So I'm just saying, they will go everywhere. They want to. I do think we can stop that. I think we can stop it all, but it's going to take a lot of work, and we're going to have to organize. And that's what I'm talking about here, okay? Because they are entrenched. She is going to probably have institutional power once she has graduated.
In the media, etc. And so I wanted to make another video after this one to kind of talk about diet culture specifically.
Okay.
My name is
Let's go to it. All right.
My name is Amanda. I'm a PhD candidate in sociology, and I study medical fat phobia. So my last video, I was talking about a comment that I received on my threads, a post that I made on threads. And I wanted to talk about what diet culture is and how it is deeply embedded within thin culture.
So now we have thin culture and diet culture. So, okay, all right. How many more of these cultures can we have?
And also,
what about fat culture? What about what it all is, which is E followed by the letter D culture? That's what this really is. That's what she's basically teaching to the world.
So what that means and how it is playing out in our kind of contemporary landscape. I think that most people, if you're talking about weight loss attempts, intentional weight loss, or, idealing to have a thinner body, a smaller body, most people would say, well, this isn't a diet. This is a lifestyle change. This is I'm doing this because I want to be healthy. I'm doing this because, I want to be able to move my body better. I want to.
Remember, I'm paranoid. Me saying that they're trying to normalize obesity, she's in another industry, going into another institution, and she's normalizing obesity here, but I'm just paranoid. And this is a shadow cabal. No, it's not. I'm going to keep saying that. Told y'all. People that want to downsize, they say they're doing it for health, but that doesn't matter. You should stay obese.
Be able to, play with my kids, all of these other things.
Yeah.
I think that most people don't realize that a lot of the language that we use around dieting, intentional weight loss, food restrictions, just simply engaging in even in health and wellness culture is deeply manipulated by weight loss companies and diet companies that are deeply invested in having us normalize these behaviors.
And what are you invested in us normalizing, ma'am? Obesity. That's what she's invested in us engaging, or she's trying to teach E followed by the letter D logic. That's what she's trying to do. That's what she's invested in. Because again, she's a bloater. She's made this her entire life. Her whole life is around this.
And really pathologize things that are considered to be normal parts of living in a body. An example of this. So I posted, a few weeks ago on threads about how I'm really seeing the rise in the use of the phrase food noise within GLP-1s. For anyone that doesn't know, food noise is supposedly, having feelings or thoughts about food that feels obsessive, and it's something that was popularized in the media, it partially by Oprah and others.
I do think that it is a part of BINGE, E followed by the letter D. Definitely. There's a massive overlap. I think in some cases, food noise can be physical as well. If there's a hormonal problem, particularly insulin resistance, that can be a thing. or if you have like hypothyroidism, that can be a thing. You can have hypohunger, insulin resistant hunger, right? There's different physical issues. If you have a physical problem that's leading to food noise, then you need to treat the physical issue and it will go away. If it's purely psychological, then we get into TR world territory, okay? So, and do remember that obesity in and of itself increases insulin resistance. So being obese will give you some level of food noise, more than likely, especially if you're totally inactive. So you have to remember that too. Obesity as a physical state does cause people to become insulin resistant. So you have to think of that too. Being obese will change your brain. It is not healthy to be obese. Okay? Being obese will cause food noise. So that is a physical reason. But for example, if somebody is not yet obese or they're not there yet and they're having those thoughts all the time and it's purely psychological, it could be a binge issue. So, yeah, be aware of that. If it's purely psychological, if you're not, I can't even say that. Oh my gosh. You know, yeah. I'm like, let me mark the time because I got to edit that out. I'm going to show you guys. I'm trying to show you how censored we are. Okay. I'm trying to make a lot of points these days. I'm in full-blown activist mode.
Celebrities that were really interested in pushing GLP-1s as a cure for this.
Because if you're talking about not being H, then you're reductive because of NEDA, because of the National Blanking Disorders Association educating YouTube or letting YouTube know what is a problem, what is a TR issue. So I can't even talk about it, and nobody else can either, and people are getting demonetized. And videos removed.
And, when I posted about how, I really think that food noise to me is really pathologizing normal hunger signals. And
except if,
and thinking about food is, not a bad thing. But what I really see when people are talking about food noise is that they're really, engaging in the
okay. So if you talk about that, then you're within the TR, which there is certainly a significant overlap. However, like I said, with the exception of insulin resistance, hypothyroidism, etc., which also tend to overlap with obesity. So I can see the overlap, but just talking about it is not being in the TR. That's a little bit much.
Obsessive thought that you're not supposed to think about food, you're not supposed to enjoy food, you're not supposed to have a relationship with food. You're not.
That's not true. You're just not supposed to want to, all the time, unceasing forever. I have had food noise within anhedonia. When I start to go up in cals, you tend to get anhedonia, especially if you have a TR past. So it causes a lot of boredom. And it causes a lot of feeling of not being satisfied. But where does that come from? It comes from brain changes from the TR, from a severe case, which I had a severe case. So that's where it comes from. So I will have food noise because I have anhedonia. It's not that bad this time as I've been climbing up. It's not that bad, but it was really bad in December and January. It was crazy. And I'm not in the TR, and I had it, So it's like, it is a thing. It's not purely E followed by letter D. It's not. I think it's a fair thing to talk about. It is real. It's just, if it's purely psychological, then you're probably bored. which if you have anhedonia, especially if it's chemical, like in my case, it's chemical because of my past, there's nothing I can do about the boredom other than to just have a surplus that I don't want because I didn't downsize just to upsize right after. So what does that mean? It means I have to just deal with it, which that's a controversial take. A lot of people don't want to hear, oh, you just have to deal with the food noise. Sometimes you have to just deal with it, y'all. I'll be honest. I'm not going to get on a GLP-1. I'm not overweight. That would be TR, by the way, to do that.
Supposed to emotionally eat, all of these other things. And that, we really see that the marketing, or I see the marketing of this new concept of food noise as, part of really pathologizing normal
No,
behaviors. And I saw the
because it's abnormal. So no.
response to that post as a really good example of that.
No, she doesn't like that people are talking about a barrier towards weight normalization or vanity or whatever. She doesn't like that. Why? Because if we talk about it, then we can come up with a solution. If we talk about it, we can talk about strategies. I don't have a TR issue because I ignore food noise. I am not anywhere near under. I'm fine. I'm actually like going towards maintenance, totally fine, totally safe, not a big deal. But I don't want to upsize. I don't have like a gripping fear in the middle of the night of upsizing. I don't have a TR feeling about upsizing, but I just have I put the work in. I want to keep it off, which she would hate. She wants to sabotage people like me. So it's not going to work on me, but a lot of other people, oh my gosh, maybe that is wrong. Maybe. She wants you to gain. She wants you to be obese. I keep telling you. Okay, next one. Okay, let's go. Number 3.
Amanda, I'm a PhD candidate in sociology and I study medical fat phobia. So this is video 3. I'm talking about diet culture and specifically I'm talking about food noise right now. I think that in this moment, we are really seeing a specific social process happening where we are medicalizing certain behaviors and feelings that individuals have about food, and turning it into something that can be treated through medical intervention. And so food noise is that example. So food noise is something that obviously has been.
See how biased she is? See how she's going to use her education to enforce obesity in the public? She's going to use her fancy terms that she learned in university in her PhD program to try to make it sound like, well, I'm speaking in this way, so I'm not actually encouraging obesity, but I am. That's basically what she's doing there. We don't want there to be any help for a barrier towards people getting weight normalization. We don't want the public to not be obese anymore. That's basically what she's saying. That's what this is. That's what this whole point is. Otherwise, what point does she have in saying any of this? What point does she have?
Popularized within our media landscape and within medicine, specifically centered around the use of GLP-1s for weight.
I've talked about it, and I don't use a GLP-1. I never have. So it's not just about that.
Weight loss. And for me, what I really see is that they are taking something.
I think it's a good term. I like it. I think it talks about something that a lot of people that are overweight and obese go through. And I like that there's a term for it. I appreciate that. So
like thoughts about food, um, enjoying food, wanting to eat food.
I don't think anybody says you can't enjoy it. Now, I did notice she said in the other one, like, emotional consumption. That's TR. Okay? That's a TR thing. It's a concept. Now, just because you emotionally consume once doesn't mean you have an issue, but honey, that is a TR belief. It's a TR concept. For sure. I'm upset, therefore I must consume. Oh, are you trying to normalize binge? No, we don't love that. No, I don't like that. As somebody who has recovered, I'm very like, no. So what I will say is like, we want to have this because it's a special occasion. Sure. Why? Because special occasion ends. We want to have this because it's my birthday. Sure. Why? Your birthday ends. I want to have this just because I feel like it today or it's within my budget or whatever. Sure. But you want to have it because you're upset? You want to have it because you're anxious? No. Not a fan. Mm-mm. Not a fan of that. I hope you can see the difference. I hope you can see why that could be a problem. Okay?
You know, as in turning it into something that is a pathology or something that is inherently wrong and that needs to be fixed. To me, this is a classic example of
insulin resistance is a pathology. Obesity is something that needs to be fixed as well. She would really love to talk to me, wouldn't she?
Of diet culture.
Hypothyroidism is a pathology as well. How many more pathologies do we need to list that have to do with food noise? The TR is a mental pathology.
In that, there might be people that are having a, significant struggle with.
Even my anhedonia, that's not normal. But like I said, where did it come from? It came from years of the TR. So my brain is super sensitive to any shift. So that's what happens. So don't be like me. Don't be like me. She wants you to be like her. She probably have the same issues that I have. She's probably so severe. Oh my gosh, she might even be worse. I never quite made it to bloater. I was a clicker. I was the level 3. But I got to the bloater threshold, but I was like, no, I can't. So those of us that left, we had our moment where we're like, we can't do it. We can't do it. I couldn't do it. I was like, I'm not dying for this. I'm not. So she's like, I'm going for it. She'll go for it.
Food, thinking about food, thoughts about food.
I don't know if bloaters can get out because like her whole life is about it. That one, I'm not sure. I have hope. I think there's always hope, right? But I do love the way Angelica talked about it, where she said because they have that entitlement, they think they're right about everything, they don't have any humility. So it's very hard to intervene with somebody like that. So I don't know if she could ever be helped, but we gotta help as many as we can. That's all I'm trying to say.
Having an emotional relationship with food, and having a difficult time with it. And for me, what I really am seeing is that instead of, we're being told that instead of maybe getting, that instead we are supposed to be taking GLP-1s to solve that issue. And so I posted about this on Threads, and I had a lot of people.
So it really depends, because if it's physically based, then that's a little different. I think that you need to know where your food noise is coming from. That would be helpful advice. So really look at what's causing the food noise. you do need to understand your cues, especially if you have a TR issue. You need to understand what, for me, when I was super severe, it was very helpful to understand what was actual hunger, what was hypo hunger, and what was food noise, right? Which food noise I would consider just like, you just think about it. You're not actually, oh my gosh, do I have to cut it out again? You're not actually H. Gosh, it's dystopia, man. Really dystopian. Anyways.
People that were responding to me saying, well, I have a hormonal imbalance.
That's a reason.
Or, my hormones are dysfunctional.
That's a reason. That's very real.
That's why I need a GLP-1.
Mm-hmm. And I would absolutely agree.
I was ravenous before I was on a GLP-1 because, of course, GLP-1's, their main goal is an appetite suppressant.
No.
And to make people eat less calories.
The main goal of a GLP-1 is diabetic medication. That's the main goal. So, no, that's actually wrong, which, again, insulin resistance, being ravenous all the time. Yeah, it's a thing. Yeah. She would know if she ever stopped bingoing.
Now, my question is, are medical professionals, before they are prescribing GLP-1s for this supposed hormonal imbalance?
Supposed? Honey, if somebody is obese, they already have a hormonal imbalance. Having that much body fat on you, fat is hormonally active. So you already got a hormonal imbalance, baby. If you're class 1 obese, congratulations. You already are hormonally imbalanced because you are obese, period. So that's very real. She wants to ignore that because she's trying to normalize obesity. But I'm going to tell you the truth because I don't want obesity to be normalized.
Are they actually doing testing for it? Are they making sure that imbalance is actually there?
It's there if they're obese.
Making sure that there aren't other issues?
You can even see visually somebody's obese. She would hate me so much. Oh, she would hate me so much. She really would. I wonder if I could get her to shout at me and stuff. That would be crazy. If I could ever do that. If I could ever break a bloater. Oh my gosh, that would just be legend on my channel. I'm willing to argue with one. I want to see if I could get him to yell at me. I feel like I could do it. You guys know I could. You know I could. I could get her to yell at me. I guarantee you.
Issues with malabsorption of nutrients. But also, are they making sure that this person is not experiencing
forbidden?
Pushing for them to get a make sure that they're actually taking in the type of nutrients that they need, because all of the hormones that people were mentioning are also things that can get in, can become dysfunctional because of.
So I would agree with that. But again, if you are obese, obesity itself will cause it. You're going to have to read. Sorry. But she's basically saying the TR causes a hormonal imbalance. That's true. It's true in her case as well. You got one too, ma'am. Very obviously so. I can tell by, and also what you're saying. So you definitely have it going on. 1,000%. So you probably have hella hormonal imbalances, which I think is why she's kind of bothered by this, because she probably does, and she probably knows she does. And it's hitting too close to home, But again, bloaters are too far along, so they don't have the energy to fight like a clicker. They're not all aggressive and, oh my gosh, no. They don't have that anymore. They're too tired. You're too tired by that point. Okay, now we're on the right one.
Amanda. I'm a PhD candidate in sociology and I study medical fat phobia. This is video 4. This is my last video on this specific topic, talking about food noise.
Thank God.
Not my last video about diet culture, but I think that the most important thing that I want people to take away when they're thinking about diet culture is that it is encompassing of things, whether you think that they are good and or bad aspects of our culture and society. So the emphasis on, engaging in eating habits or wellness behaviors or exercise behaviors that we consider to be healthy and or otherwise. The emphasis obviously on having a thin body.
Weight normalized body. Remember that if a person is fat, when they are within BINGE and they are fat, thin means normalized. I need you to understand that coming from a fat perspective. So if they're specifically fat, then they mean that. If they're not, then they might mean something else. So that one's a tough one. Thin is subjective, okay? But I just need you guys to understand that's what that means. So she's saying weight normalized, idolizing weight normalization, which I'm like, yeah, okay.
In a body that is not just thin but perfect in a wide variety of ways.
She's trying to say you have to be perfect, so don't try at all.
Bordeaux, the author of the book Unbearable Weight, talks about the emphasis on the thin body, that it's not simply a small.
Which again, that is an overlap of the reductive, the hyper-perfectionism aspect. That is TR as well. So remember, they all reinforce each other, okay?
Or lean body, but it is a body that is tone, without movement, without cellulite, without pores. It is unattainable. And so when we're talking about diet culture specifically, we're talking about the idealization of thin bodies.
Average weight bodies.
Through the type of dieting or wellness behavior that individuals are engaging in controlling the food that they are eating and the ways that they are moving their body for the main goal of
weight normalization,
thinness. Now, many people may.
So what's the problem with that? Well, because then everyone won't be obese anymore. We can't have that. That's the problem. So what did I tell you the goal was of the zombie horde? Normalize obesity. They want every single person to be obese. That is their goal. Because then people within the issue can look at the public and be reinforced. So somebody that's BINGE, especially if severe, they can look at the obese public and say, well, I'm still more obese than them. Somebody who's within the reductive, they can look and be like, well, I'm the exception. I'm exceptional. I'm amazing because of what I do. And then as we talk about the other one, I don't even want to say it at all, but the other one tries to be like the reductive, but can kind of has a lot of those traits of both of the other ones, as well as other problematic things that start with the letter P that we are not going to be talking about. Okay? Because that is a huge no-no on YouTube. And we never talk about anything controversial here, okay?
Say, well, I'm not trying to be thin, I'm trying to be healthy. But if the way that you are doing that is simply through intentional weight loss and you're not focusing on things like
I think the better way to say this would be if you are just purely focused on aesthetics, okay, you should prioritize your health, but it's also not wrong to want aesthetics. But health needs to be first. So I will tell you, health above aesthetics. But health and aesthetics is completely fine. Okay? It's really that simple. It's not that hard. It's not even that hard to say. I said it way faster than she is. She's really going on and on and on.
Cardiovascular health, strength training, or other types of ways to improve your well-being, including mental health.
Yes, and weight normalization is a huge part of that. that we cannot ignore at all. So yes, that means do not be obese.
And you're probably engaging in diet culture.
Oh, heaven forbid.
Even though society has rebranded diets as lifestyle changes, as health journeys, as wellness journeys, weight loss journeys, whatever, these are still part of what we would, as sociologists, construct as part of diet culture. And it is all part of creating a hierarchy of what is considered to be a good body, and what is to be an acceptable body.
It's not okay to be obese.
Versus ones that are unacceptable.
You're trying to say what is acceptable. You are trying to teach people that it is acceptable to be obese. I say no. We say no as fireflies on this channel. No, it is not acceptable. Stop it. So that's the bloater thing too. You're trying to tell everybody else what's acceptable. You're trying to tell people what's acceptable. You want to be the one that defines what's acceptable. I say no. It's really that simple. Bloater.
Immoral and or bad. And so,
you don't get to say that it's okay to be obese. You don't get to push that on the population. Not on my watch. It's not.
Using the phrase diet culture, even if we're not using the word diet anymore, because it is it's been rebranded in so many different ways by...
Normalize your weight, period. I don't care if you're over or under. Normalize your weight, period. It's really simple. I'm telling you, I don't even want to say it because YouTube hates it, but don't you ever do the P stuff. Ever. Hell no. So, I think you guys know what I'm saying. If you're talking to me, that's a never. Okay? Not at all acceptable, period. No. And for the other ones, oh my gosh, normalize your weight, period. Stop it. For the general public, normalize your weight, period. For the normal public, you're right to not want to be obese. You shouldn't be obese. It is healthier not to be obese. Don't listen to this crazy person. Okay? Did I talk to everybody? Did I address everybody?
Weight loss companies. It is still very much part of the discourse. And so, if you are engaging in weight loss,
So I'm evil because I did it.
Any way, that is still part of diet culture.
Oh my God, I'm still doing it. Oh my God. I'm really in diet culture now because I'm doing it for vanity now. Oh my God. Do not tell her. Don't tell her. Oh my gosh.
Regardless of the reasons that you are doing it, your own feelings.
Oh my gosh. Regardless of how I feel about it or my reasons. Oh my gosh, look at her little smug face. Oh my goodness. It doesn't matter. I'm still evil no matter what.
Etc. My name's Amanda.
She's going to have institutional power. On that note, I'm going to go. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you made it this far, thank you. I will talk to you later. Have a good one. Bye.